Phill Park Arts Centre will disappear without your support. Help us raise £500,000 and save Bracknell's much-loved arts centre. Please, donate today. southhillpark.org.uk/donate.
I'm on this new diet of sawdust and water. Don't understand the science, but I swear it's made me shorter. And I feel just as heavy as I always have. I went for a run, made it round the block. Didn't lose no pounds, but I sure got sweaty socks. Now I feel fat, but also smelly too. And I'm not sure which of the two society wants me to improve. 'Cause I've tried and I've tried to improve myself. Society tells me that it's good for my health. But every tighter notch I get on my belt, I feel less free. Also, cheesecakes make me happy. I've replaced all my carbs with quinoa and kale, which worked for a while till I grew a fluffy tail, which might be a massive lie, but I really like my carbs. I got me some diet pills, they only made me fatter. I went on the Subway diet and I ate the whole damn platter, which I'm not ashamed of. I'm actually quite proud. That's 4 footlongs, 48 inches of bready goodness. 'Cause I've tried and I've tried to improve myself. Society tells me that it's good for my health. But every tighter notch I get on my belt, I feel less free. Also, pizza make me happy. I've tried and I've tried to improve myself. But every time it's straight back to the confectionery shelf. I feel so awful when I'm eating well, I feel less free. I feel less free. Also, cheesecakes make me happy. Ahoy there, my hearties, I'll tell you a tale. The saddest you ever did hear, of a pirate so destined to sail the seas, but the 7 seas he did fear. No one ever thinks of the pirate who's cursed, anxious, depressed and seasick. No one ever stops to wonder what makes this dire plunderer tick. He's the landlocked pirate, and he wanted to grow a beard, but the hipsters made that weird. So he sits here, clean shaven and bare, with an 1,000-yard stare. Now listen, ye lovers, I know you might think this tale will be false and untrue. For what pirate's captain would e'er be seen without a ship and a motley crew? And the only pirate's booty that this captain's got is the one that he plonked on his chair. And line manager said if he's to remain employed, he'd have to cut his long hair. He's the landlocked pirate, and he's feeling so worthless, with no fulfilled purpose, as a single tear rolls down his cheek and into his rum. He feels done. chest's broken and his yars remain unspoken, and an X marks the spot where the cracks have formed in his heart. He's falling apart, and we go yo ho ho ho, yo ho 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 for the landlocked pirate. We go yo ho ho ho, yo ho 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 for the landlocked pirate. We go yo ho ho ho, yo ho 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 for the landlocked pirate. We go yo ho ho ho, yo ho 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 for the landlocked pirate.
So I am the grand old Duke of Dork. My style of music is very tongue-in-cheek. I wouldn't necessarily say I was a comedian or a funny man, but I aim to entertain the audience. All of my songs are about the lighter things in life, a range of different topics, and I kind of lean on modern meme culture a little bit in some of my song choices. But yeah, for me, I'm a ukulele player, and I've been playing ukulele now for about 2 years, and I've been on the local scene for about 18 months around kind of Bracknell, Reading, that sort of way, doing gigs in the area. A couple of wonderful gigs actually at South Hill Park in that time, and yeah, I'm all about entertainment is what I would say. My mission statement is, as it were, it's all about if I can get the audience to have a smile on their face, then I've done my job. Oh, my influences range really. I am, first and foremost, I'm into alternative rock and punk music, but that doesn't really lend itself so much to the ukulele. Although, don't get me wrong, there's one or two songs that I cover that would come from that. I do a bit of System of a Down, Toxicity on occasion, and so you can definitely see my roots in there. But really and truthfully, I'm really eclectic in my tastes, and much like a live stream I've done recently, where I just did only musical theatre songs. I really have a really broad range of what I appreciate, and I think the best way to describe kind of how my influences come into what I do is I love pop music, and not necessarily kind of processed pop, but the sort of pop music that stands the test of time. So the likes of, and this is not belittling them at all, but the likes of ABBA and disco, and the Motown, and all these kind of styles of music that they're not pop in the sense of what the last 20-30 years has called pop, but they are ostensibly just easy on the ears, and they get a crowd going. When writing a song, probably the easiest way to say it is I don't have a process. It's one of those things of, a lot of songwriters will tell you that there's a chicken and an egg thing with songwriting, and you either have a hook or you have a theme for the song and you work around it. Whereas with me, it tends to be really organic, and I will get either a piece of music together that I just really appreciate, and I rack my brains for months on end, and then end up putting lyrics about lollipop ladies into it just because they fit, or it'll go the other way, and I'll think I think about a particular thing that I have an affinity to. So I say famously, but on the local scene, people know me for my song "We Love You, Pac-Man," which is all about Pac-Man, and kind of the lyrics for that just really flowed for me, because it was just a case of I knew all of the pop culture around Pac-Man, and I was able to just go bang bang bang. But ultimately, it's a really organic process, and for me, the tricky thing is kind of finding the punchlines that I know the audience will appreciate, but also because live music is a strange beast, and sometimes you'll get an audience that just are not interested in listening to very clever little puns about Pac-Man, if you'll allow me to say that my songs are clever. But what instead you have to make sure is that your songs are in some way resonating with the audience. So they might not have heard that punchline, but are they enjoying what I'm doing. So yeah, it's kind of, it's easier for me to do the bulk quite quickly, sanding off the edges and having it ready to put on the production line, as it were, is a little bit trickier. I think what inspires me to make music really is, ultimately, as I kind of mentioned before, my mission statement is to entertain. And if someone was to say to me, you know, any icon, past to present, that has really influenced you, and I would probably say it was someone like Bob Monkhouse. And the reason I would say that is because, you know, it's just kind of a song and dance man. When I love a wide range of comedy, I really do. I'm a big fan of comedy, and I love edgy comedy. I have a real affinity for comedians like Michael McIntyre and Lee Evans, where the comedy is designed to play to the top seats and the cheap seats, and it's all about, you know, silly comedy is what I'm there for. And you know, with the likes of Lee Evans, he would consider himself a song and dance man rather than a comedian quite a lot, because ultimately he wants to entertain an audience, and that is where my heart lies. I love music that touches the soul, and I've tried historically to write songs. I think I've written one or two lovely little songs that are for that type of genre, but what I aim for and what I do is less about touching the soul and more about just, you know, making someone smile, and all about a good time. What's the old expression? I'm not here for a long time, I'm here for a good time. And that's very much what I aim for when I step on stage. I've actually found lockdown quite difficult, in terms of creating music. I don't know whether it's that kind of societal pressure of, oh, well, you've got all this free time, so you might as well write all those songs you were planning on writing, or it's the fact that I've got a full-time office day job that I've had to be dealing with working from home as well. But for me, it's been quite difficult. But what's been really interesting about lockdown is, I would never have dreamed of doing a live stream, and part of that is down to the fact that, confidence is a big part of what I do, and if I don't have feedback from the audience, it can make for a tricky gig. And some of my tougher gigs that I've had are the ones where the audience have not quite understood what I'm all about, and so I've had to do all of the work, as it were. And Lord knows I don't like doing all the work. But what I would say ultimately is actually live streams have been enforced upon me, and I've actually managed to cultivate a different style in a way. And I think I have learned so much from lockdown, as a human being, obviously, as we all have, but also as an artist, and trying to find an audience where maybe there wouldn't normally have been for me. I do a lot of work with two promoters on the local scene. I around Bracknell, I do a lot of work with Graham Steele, Graham Steele's music company. He puts on music all throughout the week, and he's a solid guy, really, really doing a lot for the local music scene. And also on the Bracknell music scene, Abby Powell does a lot of kind of promoting and events, and for her sins, she puts up with me on many of her events. And then wider, I just try and get I try and get. For me, it's about different nights, different events, different styles. So on one hand, I do love to do family beer festivals, and on the other hand, I also love to be on at 10:30 after people have had a beer, and kind of the music has got people into a rowdy atmosphere. So I tend to kind of find myself kind of tottering about, just trying to hope someone listens. For me, on the local scene, and I'm aware this is a really broad answer to what you've just asked me, but it's just high quality everywhere. I mean, I look around, and as I say, I mean, Abby Powell herself, she belts out songs. And I remember the first time I saw her, and it absolutely floored me, the energy that she gets on stage, and her band Fleece Lined, which is basically a super group of who's who on the Bracknell scene, and Alfie Griffin, their guitarist. His music just absolutely gets to me. A good friend of mine, Mark Woosnam, I go back to what I said about music that touches the soul. We're like chalk and cheese on that front, and we've done loads of gigs together because we're good friends. But while I'm doing the silly stuff and singing about Pac-Man and pirates, he is singing about love, life, and loss, and he does all sorts of funky tunings on his guitar that he's almost like a math guitarist. I think that's what they call them, with some of the stuff that he does, and he himself, a wonderful set of pipes, and yeah, just broader, but even onto kind of the entertainment side of things, not just songwriters. You've got bands like Toxic Sofa that can hold an audience in the palm of their hand, with their stage presence and what they do. And ultimately, I could list off a reel of hundreds of fantastic artists, because the local music scene is absolutely chock to the brim with people who you wouldn't dream of knowing were on your doorstep. And so often, in modern society, forgive me for getting a bit deep, but in modern society, it's fed to us that if you're not going to the Premier League, you're not going to the cream of the crop. And I really disapprove of that. If you're paying £60 to go to Hella Mega Tour with Green Day, Weezer, and Fall Out Boy, you are getting an experience. Don't get me wrong, you're not getting that same level of pyrotechnics down at South Hill Park. However, down at South Hill Park, you are getting artists that, you're sat at them. They are singing to you, and they're singing really interesting stuff. There's artists out there that are doing stuff. I mentioned Mark Woosnam again. He's doing stuff with the guitar that I just don't think anyone does. And I really think it's important. Everyone's saying it at the moment, but it's so important that we take art seriously, and we really do. When we get out of lockdown, we remember that grassroots music is just as important as the big corporate scene that's forced down our throat. The local scene is so important to the wider world because ultimately it's the high street, right? We can go and browse the high street and find a bargain. And I'm not belittling any of the acts on the local scene when I say find a bargain. What I mean is it's so easy to just turn on the TV, to stream from YouTube, to go and find the latest sensation. I love Billie Eilish. She is fantastic. I'm not sure if it's Billie Eilish or Billie Eilish, but she is fantastic. Her album absolutely blew me away when I heard it last year, because again, it goes back to freshness, and it was a music sound that I just hadn't heard. And there's influences, sure, but for every high level musician, there are 100 on the local scene. And it goes back to that thing, it's a bargain. We sit in our homes and we stream content, and we feed on whatever we can get for £5 a month, when twice a week you can go out and pay £3 on the door, or sometimes even free. And you're walking in, and obviously you're going to have nights where it's not necessarily to your cup of tea, but you're seeing something that someone has put hard graft into with very little sponsorship or support, and they're doing that for the wider world. And there's a bit of pretentiousness, and excuse me, there's a bit of pretentiousness there, in the sense of, well, they're giving me their story, why do I need their story? But that's what it's all about, right? That's what society is about. It's about learning from each other, and music does that. It teaches us what other people are going through, whether that be my silly songs about Pac-Man and pirates, lollipop ladies, or whether that be the likes of Abby and Mark doing what they do and singing songs about breakups and the stress of life. And it's just so important that we feed the grassroots.